President Biden, we understand, is refusing to give an inch, even as now 34 Democrats in Congress are calling on him to step aside out of course, about 200. Biden is in Delaware after being diagnosed with COVID, and in a new statement today says he will return to the campaign trail next week. The First Lady Jill Biden is scheduled to host a fundraiser in Paris next Thursday. She's there for the Olympics opening ceremony. The price of admission there is between $500 and $25,000. Meantime, this afternoon, the Vice President, Kamala Harris, met with major Democratic donors. A Zoom call, reportedly organized by the influential megadonor and LinkedIn founder Reid Hoffman. Hoffman has been pushing very assertively for an alternative ticket, many scenarios which do not even involve Harris. But as Biden digs in, his campaign is dismissing the donors and elected officials who also get money from those same donors who have turned on Biden. Biden's campaign insisting that they have contact with real voters, including the 14 million of them who democratically chose Biden as their nominee, and that the polls that elected members of Congress are now pointing to justify throwing their ticket out after voters picked it are bunk. In fact, Biden's feelings about polls are not new. Here's what he told me in his most recent interview on CNN.
When you talk about the economy, of course, it is by far the most important issue for voters. It's also true right now, Mr. President, that voters by a wide margin trust Trump more on the economy. With less than 6 months to go to Election Day, are you worried that you're running out of time to turn that around?
We've already turned it around. Look at the Michigan survey. For 65% of American people think they're in good shape economically. They think the nation's not in good shape, but they're personally in good shape. The polling data has been wrong all along.
The polling data has been wrong all along. Those are the words of the president, and anyone who's spent any time with him in the past 6 months has heard that from him. It was a defiant Biden then, as he appears to be tonight, in the face of more Democrats turning on him. MJ Lee is out front from the White House to begin our coverage. And MJ, Biden staying in the race, doubling down tonight. Vice President Kamala Harris getting on that major donor call at a crucial moment. What more are you learning about that call?
Yeah, Aaron, at a moment when President Biden is sidelined with COVID and his political future remains so uncertain, we saw the campaign dispatching Vice President Kamala Harris to get on a call with major donors. It was described as a pep talk of sorts where she said, "We are going to win." Importantly, she didn't address the chaos that is engulfing the Democratic Party. And clearly, this was seen as an attempt to turn the attention back to Donald Trump. But Aaron, for all of the talk right now about the growing public calls on President Biden to get out of the race, the campaign's money problems are incredibly serious right now. Many donors have told us that they are simply no longer going to write checks so long as President Biden remains at the top of the ticket. And I was just speaking with a major Democratic donor who summed it up this way. They said, "I don't know how you campaign with a broadening electoral map without money. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know. I've never seen this strategy where you think you can win without money." Now, Aaron, this donor was saying maybe under the current circumstances, you can dig in for a couple more weeks, but anything longer term is going to be extraordinarily difficult. And they also happen to mention that the emails that you get from the campaign for campaign events and fundraisers have really slowed down in recent weeks. I should just note, the Biden campaign has really taken pride in pointing to the national infrastructure that it has built over the last year or so, the offices they've opened, the staff hires that they've made, the training that they're doing, the voter outreach. But the bottom line is you can have an amazing operation, but you can't keep the lights on if the money is not coming in.
All right, MJ, thank you very much. And joining us now, Isaac DeVere, who has broken numerous stories about the Biden campaign here, Kate Anderson Brower, who's reported extensively on the Biden family, and CNN Newsnight anchor Abby Phillip. Isaac, let me just start with you. Biden insisting he's not going anywhere, campaign insisting he's not going anywhere, campaign chief giving that interview this morning, despite the list of Democrats calling for him to step aside, obviously getting longer by the hour. Do you think these calls are now backfiring or not, Isaac?
Well, they're backfiring in a way, and also it's important, it's been pointed out to me, that Joe Biden is experiencing what's happening in a different time frame than most of the rest of us. He was aware last week that Nancy Pelosi had a tough conversation with him because he was part of it. The rest of us only became aware of it this week with the CNN reporting about it. So he is factoring that stuff in, not in a way that is, as some have made it out, that he's just not paying attention to anything. He's paying attention to it. He just thinks that he has a lot of other information and data that's pointing him in a different direction, and also is always coming back to the fact that other people said he couldn't beat Donald Trump. Other people said that Hillary Clinton was the one to beat Donald Trump over him in 2016, and he thinks he's proven those arguments wrong. before, and he can again.
So, Kate, the chaos and uncertainty out there, obviously, we know the importance of Jill Biden, and the First Lady's supposed to go to Paris, right, for a fundraiser and the Olympic opening ceremony, right, as part of her role as First Lady. Price of the tickets $500 to $25,000. I'm curious how actually all that is going, but based on your sources, what is she thinking right now?
Well, a source inside the White House told me that she's all in because he's all in, and that this caricature of her as a sort of Lady Macbeth character, that she's holding on to power and is somehow running things behind the scenes, is absolutely not true. She's not involved politically, but she is involved as a wife and a support system to him. I mean, they've been married for almost 5 decades. Yeah. They have been in foxholes together before. She sees this as just another trial that they have to get through, and he's run for president several times, and I think it's really hard for any president to be in there for one term. Their wives often want them to stick it out and try to win another term.
Well, from a legacy perspective, there's no way to go now to say I considered. I mean, it's humiliating. There's no way around it if that's what happens. I mean, Abby, to that point, Democrats have done a really good job of shooting at their own nominee. A horrible reference. Yeah. I shouldn't have used those words, but they have been. That's where the fire's been coming from. How much longer can it go on?
Well, if you're one of the Democrats who feels incredibly vulnerable right now electorally in terms of the fundraising, you want this to end in the next couple of days because the clock is ticking to the convention. That's really the time frame that people who want another nominee, they think that they have to get this done really in the next week in order to have a shot at a process going into the convention. But if you are Joe Biden, you think you actually need to just hold out until the convention when he becomes, actually not even then, they're going to have a roll call vote that would make him the official nominee in just a matter of a few days, actually. And I think Biden sees the timeline very differently. He sees between now and the convention as a relatively short period of time where he can push back on these calls. But for the Democrats who are in these tough races, the Sherrod Browns of the world, they really are putting on the pressure now because really this next week is a crucial window if it's going to be someone else.
You were talking about some of these donors, and it is sort of amazing in conversations I've had with these donors. Yeah. There's almost a glee. There's a power that they've never had before. It's like fantasy football. What ticket do we want? In groups of very, very rich people influencing this. You've been reporting on texts that are coming from these donors to people up for re-election saying, turn on Biden or else we cut it off for you too?
Yeah, I mean, I'm told, I've seen these messages going from donors and bundlers who are talking to donors to candidates and to people who are fundraising on behalf of the candidate committees that are basically saying, we told you weeks ago, Biden needs to be off the ticket. We want someone else. Some of the messages are even more explicit. We want an open process. We don't want Kamala Harris. And so that is a really, that's an enormous amount of pressure. I'm really not sure we've seen anything quite like that before. I do want to say, Erin, though, these donors are, these are people who are dyed-in-the-wool Democrats. They are spending enormous amounts of money to back Democratic causes and candidates. And they don't want to waste their money, but they also believe that because of what they've committed financially, they have influence and they are using that leverage right now.
You know, Isaac, I want to play again this issue. So this is the influence from donors, right? And then with all of this going on, the move in the polls that we've seen, is something obviously that Biden dismisses. Let me just play again something that I think very fairly reflects what everyone I've heard who's talked to the president has said is his view on polls.
With less than 6 months to go to Election Day, are you worried that you're running out of time to turn that around?
We've already turned it around. Look at the Michigan survey. For 65% of the American people think they're in good shape economically. They think the nation's not in good shape, but they're personally in good shape. The polling data has been wrong all along.
You know, he truly, Isaac, not just from that. I have heard him say it before, and anyone, as I said, that I've spoken to has said that he said the same thing. He truly doesn't believe the polls.
That's right, and that's not something post-debate, that's where he's always been. Your interview was at the beginning of May, right?
Yeah.
And the issue is that the polls in 2020 showed him ahead at this point, and he went on to win. There's a lot of questions about polls and the sample groups and all the rest of it, but Biden feels like he has a deeper connection to what's going on, and he feels like there will be a real recoil against Donald Trump, even in the last minutes. Part of that also is calling the bluff, in a way, with these donors that Abby is talking about and saying, are you really not going to be there? And importantly, you have a lot of Democrats who are really uncomfortable about this. One Democratic member said to me about Abigail Disney, who said that she would boycott giving donations, I don't really want to live in a country where an heiress gets to pick our president. Notably, she and other people who have called for the boycott had not given money to Joe Biden already in this campaign. And so the Biden campaign looks at them and says, you weren't with us already, so what are you threatening us with?